Hi, and welcome to this new tutorial. And today I want to continue the topic I've started on the last video. It was a checkout session. I was laying down a little idea contained in one pattern, and it sounds like this. Nothing too crazy, but it was really a demo on laying down fast ideas into the Octatrack. Today I want to go a little bit more in depth on that topic, and of course there's a lot of things we can do to work furthermore this demo. I can't go over every detail on what I should do or I will do with this pattern to make the best out of it and transform this little demo into a proper track. But I want to give you some ideas, especially on how to work and to manage with that kind of situation. And the situation is precisely that I want to, for instance, change this line here. I don't want to change that in terms of sequence. Let's keep that loop, it's okay. But I want to change the sequence in terms of sound. I want to make it a little bit more lively and present and effective and stuff like that, okay? The problem is that on every track, except the 8, which is the master track, we have a sample, so we don't have room to play furthermore with, for instance, the effects and stuff like that, unless we are resampling. Of course, the resample buffers in the Octatrack are always listening, but I don't want to record and use a buffer which I can't properly manage and manipulate. I don't know, it's a little bit odd on me, so I prefer to have a dedicated track, and I know that this track is my recording buffer, and I use that. In order to do this, we can use parts. Parts are used for maybe lay down different section of your tracks, can be used for different track in the same bank, or for MIDI purposes to send out MIDI information when you fire a part. Or in this case, I will use part as a working table, a temporary working table, because most of the time I want my track to be on one pattern only, so I can use mute and stuff like that to make my arrangement live. This means that we can use a second part to work our pattern and our loops, and then simply substitute the loops and so on. Or if you are working on all tracks, you can really substitute the parts and the pattern, okay? Let's start with copy and paste the pattern 1 on pattern 2. So now we should have two identical patterns. Right, so now we are on pattern 2, and we have to copy part 1 on part 2 and switch the part. Now pattern 1 is on part 1 and pattern 2 is on part 2. So this means that we can completely change the behavior of our track. Let's leave the kick and filter out all the rest except track 7, because I want this track to be my resampling track. Okay, in the pattern, in the part 1 is a effects, and now we can use this track here to record our pattern. There was something recorded into the buffer, so now I deleted that. And now we have to set the buffer, so I want to record from track 5. Sorry, from track 5, 64. We have to set the fade in and fade out. And now just place a trig and let's record the part. Nice. Now, of course, we have some effects here and we have to clear all these pages in order to have the raw recording. Now let's save and assign this sample here. Assign. And now we should have our line. So now we can take this sample, this new sample, and simply just delete sequence and replace the trig. Can also set the sequencer on 64. Okay. And now we have, of course, to delete all the settings on the track, because we have just sampled this one with all these effects and LFO movements. And yeah, it's perfectly identical. Now I can start to use different effects, because now it's possible to free up these two slots, right? So the first thing I want to do is switch the FX1 and FX2 on trigless trig, so I can use the filter maybe to filter out a little bit in general, and then opens up when reach the trigless trig, right? And in order to do this, we have to we can point at the various part of the loop that we want to emerge. And make some cool rhythms, right? And it's bouncing a little more. This is the first, the original one. And this is the new one. It's a lot more lively. Okay, another thing we can do is to use maybe let's lower a little bit the volume and use an LFO on the volume just to achieve a little bit more bouncing. This is a kind of faking a sidechain technique. Let's try to sync trig. 3, I prefer that. And just a touch, not too much. Nice. Let's add another effects. I don't want to lose the ability on scenes as on pattern 1. Doing this with the cam filter, but we can assign this scene later again, okay? So for now, let's switch, maybe let's try on lo-fi. Yeah, I like this. So let's modulate this one again. Let's leave on 3. Yeah. Cool. Now let's resample again. Nice. So save and assign sample. Assign. And now let's do the same thing. We can now delete all the information on the sequencer, all the information on the effects. Now, I don't know why. Okay, no problem. Just some bugs, I don't know. Yeah, it's better, right? Now, let's say that we are happy with the sound. We start from there. And now it's like this. It's a lot more focused. But it's more bouncing and lively also. Now, of course, we can use a lot of different effects. So maybe let's use just to have a little bit more a wide stereo image. To widen the stereo image, we can use, of course, chorus, or we have our specializer, and we have to switch on MS. And let's give a little bit of gain on the side. Mid-side processing, it's a process that subdivides the stereo image into 2 sections, not left and right, but center and sides, okay? On the center, we have always the low-mid content, so bass and kicks, toms, rumbles and stuff like that. And in the sides, we have always the mid-high frequencies, tonal stuff and stuff like that. This is important because by dividing the image that way, we have a precise control on how wide the image will be and how much focused the low mid will be into a DAW. This opens up a lot of advantages more because we can process 2 sides properly and in a different way. But by the way, if you want to use the here, how much width we have now. This is centered. but I prefer to use in this case the chorus. Not too much wide. Nice. And let's try to use an equalizer because it's a little bit dusty and mud on the mid frequency, so I want to remove some of the mids. This kind of this area here. Let's do a little bit precise. Just a touch. Now we are good to resample more. One more time. And now save and assign. Let's assign the new sample. Cool. Now I have these two slots free again, and all this process is due because I want at the end of my writing process, so when it comes the time to perform the track, I want to have on every track, or almost every track, a delay or a reverb, because I can use that to make good transition. Good transition are always with a touch of reverb or ambience in general, delays and stuff like that. It's true that on track 8 I have a master delay, but now it's set up as a delay lock, and I want to leave like this. This is for two reasons, because this gives me a performative tool right here, so it's convenient. And second thing, I want to be able to assign the ambience per track, because I want to be more precise on the settings of the reverb and the delay in the ambience, because you have to be like that. Ambience can widening up your tracks, can gives you some depth on your tracks, but if you exaggerate, they can result in a messy and muddy mix. We are inside an hardware, we are not in a DAW, so we have to be a lot precise, and we have to think about that, because they are precise choices, and then we have to record our tracks, and they were printed like that, okay? They will be printed like that, sorry. So now I can think to restore my cam filter. And now I want to assign, maybe let's clear this track here, okay, and I want to assign yes, so we have regained this and now let's use our delay, delay, tape on, okay. set our filters. This is very important, and this is why I want to use different reverbs and delay. Also, we have a reverb here on the kick. So imagine the mess of having one single delay for all the mix. This is a lot more precise, and I can set different settings on the filters depending on the material. Now let's Now all the thing I have to do is to copy the track, sorry, not the pattern, and simply switch this on pattern 1 and paste the track. So now we have to copy also the scenes. So copy scene 4 and paste on part 1, and copy scene 5 and paste on part 1. Now we are on part 1. Yeah. The bass is more lively, is bouncing more, is reacting a little bit more properly with the kick, and this is very important. And of course, this is one example of what you can do. As I said, I can do this right now for every track because this will be too long, but you get the point. You can simply use parts as a working table and then copy the pattern or the track into your bass or home part. And we have 3 parts at our disposal, so we can in any moment work with maybe expand our track and have, I don't know, 4 or 5 patterns across 3 parts and use the part 4 exclusively for the writing process. This is it for this tutorial, and I hope this gives you some new ideas for your tracks. And if you need samples or instruments and mastering and mixing services for your tracks, just check my Gumroad page. Let me know in the comment what you think about this way of working with parts, and thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye!